Hello everyone, welcome to this particular video. In this video, I wanted to go over Azure Policy and I wanted to make this one of the definitive videos that you will ever need to understand Azure Policy. I don't have any fancy slides for this one. All I have is some notes that I have already noted down here that I'm going to give it to you. I have my Azure portal where we'll go and take a look at some of the policies, and I'm going to give you a couple of resources. We'll actually take a look at it, some Microsoft documentation on Azure policies as we go through our lecture today. Okay, so let's start. So what is an Azure policy? Why do you need it? So when you move to a cloud environment, there could be governance requirement. You may need to meet regulatory compliance, SOX, okay, ISO needs. There could be multiple compliance standards that you have to meet. So how do you define those policies? How do you enable, how do you manage, and how do you make sure that your organization, when you're moving to the cloud, is in a good shape? Okay, so your policy helps you to do that. Okay, you can also use the policy to even manage costs, like by stopping or denying deployment of certain resources which may be not cost that may cost you a lot of money. So you may have a company policy that only these SKUs for certain resources can be deployed in your environment. Again, if you have a large enterprise, if you have multiple management groups, multiple subscriptions, resource groups, and you want to apply a uniform policy over multiple subscription, multiple management groups, you can use this policy. That means the policy you can apply at scale. So you don't have to create a policy and then just apply to a resource group or one subscription. You can apply this in a much wider at scale. Okay, and the way you do it, you apply to the management group level at the highest root level, and that policy will percolate down to anything else that comes under the management group. That's the highest level. Now, what is the format of your policy? These are really JSON objects, and you can read those policies. And within Azure, we have many, probably over 450 or so built-in policies that are already available for you to use for free. Okay, many of the policies, they also have remediation options available to you, meaning you can audit a policy, and at the same time, if you want to take some remediation options, you can also do that. So another thing is policy initiative. So this is a recommendation from Microsoft as well. If you read the documentation, like if you want to enable a policy, instead of working with a single policy, go with an initiative. Initiative is nothing but a group of policies, or sometimes also called a policy set, where in the future, if you want, you can add more policies to the initiative. So you are not recreating and just always working with assignment of one policy to multiple resources. You have only one initiative that you make it applicable to all of your resources. Now you're just adding policies as needed. Okay, that's gonna help you a lot. Scope wise, as I said, you can apply to the management group, subscriptions, and even resource group level. There might be a way to apply this to a resource itself. I have never seen that, and I didn't even know that you can apply this to a resource group until I came across the documentation, and it says that your scope could be even up to the resource group, which I have not done that ever in my life. Okay, so let's see, Azure permission to make. If I find it when we go through this, we will look at it. But if you look at this, you will know. Let's actually do a quick scope since we are here. Let's SEO PE. Here, overview policy. The policy definition is sensitive to any scope of resources that Azure supports, such as management group, subscription, resource group, all individual resources. So this is the one where I'm not 100% sure. I have never applied anything to an individual resource, but I'm okay with the management group, subscription, or a resource group level. And to prove my point, let's go to Azure. Okay, so from Azure, the way you can go to the policy is policy comes as a service, so you can do a policy and the policy will show up. So you can click on that one, all right, and it will take you to the policy blade. Okay, it has a whole bunch of things in here, and I have already some policies, that I added. But here you can look at policy definitions, you can assign your policies, you can look at compliance and all of that stuff. Okay, that's one way. Now the other way you can assign policies, let's say go to a resource group, okay, and let's get into, say, the test user RG is a resource group that I am going in. Inside this, you see there's a policies blade over here. So I know that if I want, I can apply policies to this particular resource group. Like if I come over here and start assigning policy, I can assign policy to this particular resource group. Okay, now if I go back up one level, go back to the resource group, and I have a resource in here. So if I click on that one, so that's a SSH key resource, but if you look at it, there is no policy blade available to me. So I cannot really apply the policy from this view to this key. Okay, so let's think about, do I have a storage account? So let's just go to a storage account and just see if we have a policy blade in there or not. So over here, and if there are too many, you can always use this search button over here, and you see there's no policy even assigned to a storage account. So that is the reason that I'm saying that I have never seen any policy that you apply directly to an individual resource. You always apply to a resource group, then or to subscription or the upper level management. Okay, now so that's out of our way. So this we know where we can apply. So if you want to be most consistent, and if you have multiple subscription, I would recommend go with the management group and apply your policy uniformly, everything that comes under your Azure deployment or Azure environment. Okay, now how the policies evaluate themselves? The policies are usually always on. That means once you create a policy, it could be a deny, audit, whatever it is, it's always on. So once you have created, if I try to create a new resource, the policy will be automatically applied. Alright, so it's always on, and your policy evaluation also happens when we create, update, or delete a resource that is already controlled, or there is a policy defined for a particular resource type. Okay, when we create a new policy, that is also when it's being evaluated. Or if we update a policy or initiative, then also, like if we add a couple new policies to an initiative, that will also, that's the time when it will be evaluated. And apart from all of that, the policy is also evaluated at least once per every 24 hours. That's as part of the standard compliance evaluation. Okay, now based on the policy, you can take multiple different actions on what you are trying, or somebody trying to do with your resource. So you can deny a change, that maybe somebody is trying to delete a machine, a storage account. Maybe somebody is trying to deploy a storage account with HTTP option only and not enabling HTTPS. You can deny the change, or you can let them deploy the storage with HTTP only enabled and just log that there is a problem. You can alter your resource after the change. Okay, so you go and remediate if you find the problem. Before the change. Okay, you can alter even after the change, or at the time of deployment you can deploy a related compliant resource if you like. Okay, so some of that we're going to also take a look at. So one question that will come up: can you remediate non-compliant resources using policies? And the answer is yes. There are lots of policies where you have the remediation feature available, where if you find some items that are non-compliant, you can make them compliant and be compliant with your organization policies, and we can also look at some of that as well. So what are some of the recommendations that you find if you go through the Microsoft documentation? They will say they start with the audit policy. So don't enforce, don't deny anything. So that if you say create something and if you by mistake make the policy too restrictive, it's going to have a major impact on multiple different groups. If you apply this policy to the resource group level, you may get multiple calls from multiple other people. They will say, oh, I can't do this to that. So let's start with the audit, see what's going on, how many are failing the audit, and then tweak your policy, come up with the best practice that's and most suitable policy and secure policy for your own organization. Again, have a predefined org structure. It's good to have a management group subscription so you know exactly where to apply your policy. And again, this I also already mentioned at the beginning that if you can, always start with an initiative, not work with an individual policy. Okay. Now I'm gonna go back to our Azure and we'll look at some of these policies. For allowed locations, add a tag to resource, which is a deny policy, and this is a modify policy, add a tag to resource. And we all also look at a policy called append tag and its default value. So let's go back over here. So what we'll do, we are going to just start with the policy. And again, if you forgot how to go there, so just start again, policy, click on it, and right there is your policy blade. So before I start anything, if you have something in here, couple policies you see ASC default, that's automatically being applied to your subscription. Okay, and these are the two policies that I created previously. So what I want to do first, I want to show you how to delete these policies or these assignments. So all you need to do is click on that little icon right there, triple dots, and just say delete assignments, and it's gonna ask, do you want to delete the policy assignment? And kind of notice we have 81% right now, and I'm just gonna delete that. So that didn't really change. That's good. So in this one, I want to delete the policy for allowed locations. Okay, so let's delete that one. So even before learning about how to assign them, I'm teaching you how to delete them. Isn't that funny? All right. So the workflow of implementing a policy starts with the policy definition, then you go to assignments. Okay, so those are the two main areas that you will spend a lot of time. So if you go to definitions right there, so what you are going to see, there are lots of policies. Okay, these are the two policies that are that I created, and I said custom requirement and VM regional restriction. So let's get rid of them as well. So now I can delete this definition because we're going to create some of those. So here this is another custom ones, and I don't want any custom, so I'm going to delete this recommendation as well. Okay, the initiative as well. So I got those two. So now if you see, pretty much everything in here, they're built in. So I have removed all of our policies that are custom. Okay, and you can go through this, and this is a huge list where you have lots and lots and lots of policies available that you can enforce and assign, and you can make initiatives if you take like 5 of them and put them together. Okay. All right, everyone. So what we are still reviewing our policies, and as I said, there are tons and tons of built-in policies that you should use to your own advantage, and what is the type is defined over here, and you can see that we have lots of initiative. Anytime you have initiative, you usually say there's multiple, at least 2. You can also have 1, like here there's an initiative with only 1 policy inside it. Okay, but if you look at some other ISO 27001, that initiative got 58 different policies that are part of this control. Okay, you can order it by the number of policies you have, most likely. Okay, so if you now go down, you should see
as you go down, you have more and more controls as per. But again, over here you will also see that it also has policy. If you don't want to assign initiative, you can also assign a particular policy uh, to your system. Now you can read some of this: audit virtual machines without disaster recovery, and the easiest way to assign policy. So here you have all the definitions. You come to assignments, okay, and in the assignments, as I said, I would recommend that you always work with an initiative, create your initiative, then assign it. But let's work with one policy. So you just can click on the assign policy part, and it's going to ask you for a couple of things, and you see it's parameters, remediation, and review and create. So scope, where it's been applied, so you can even go down to a resource group if you like and be very granular. Okay, so let's go down to the resource. If you want to exclude some stuff, you can also do that over here. Policy definition, you can pick up from all of these built-in policies. Let's say, let's search for location. Let's see if we have allowed location is a very common one that a lot of people use for data privacy restrictions. So let's choose that one. Let's just say allowed location. Usually it will let you change the name of the policy. Where is the name of the policy? Allowed location, it's not here. Policy definition is, but allowed locations, I'll just put custom. Okay, you can put whatever you want. Policy enforcement, I'm going to enable this one, and if you try to create, it won't let you create because you have not given any parameters. Okay, let's see what happens. So if I click on this one and say create, you see the red mark, no manage identity associations. This is something else we also need to do. Allowed locations, say we only want to allow the policy to be available to deploy resources within EastUS. So now I can say create, so it will go through, and now you have one policy. Okay, now just to double check, so let's click on the policy and make sure the policy enforcement is enabled. Assignment ID, allowed location, everything looks good. Parameters is QS. There is no remediation, we have not created. So if you wanted to do something, you can also come here and create the management identity for yourself. So let's just go back to our resource group and let's try to create a resource that is not in EastUS. So let's try to create a key vault, maybe say key vault. Okay, and we are going to try to create it in a different region, and that's all we want to test and make sure that our policy is working. So test KV1234 and 221 and let's choose East Asia maybe. Okay, so now if you do review and create, what I would imagine that this validation is gonna fail, but it did pass. So let's try to create this one as well and see. Now here is your problem. So this is not the best design. I think it should have captured that we already have a policy during the validation check, but just note that even though it said yeah everything is good, when you're actually deploying, your policy will still be enforced, and it's gonna say that no, you cannot deploy your resource in that particular region. And you can read why it's been denied, and you can figure out this allowed location is the problem, and you gotta have the right location for the deployment. Okay, so hopefully you have a good understanding of how policies work. I would highly recommend that you go to this particular URL and do your own investigation and just read up some more how everything works. There are tons of policies that you can use and use for your own benefit, make your governance work, make your environment way more secure. And you can even go to assign a policy definition, and it will have a guide to how to exactly like what we just did. It will have some other examples as well if you want some more practice. And that's about it. So learn about one last thing I actually quickly let me show you before I close. The policy section will also show up under security center. Okay, so that's the third area where you can go and access your policies. So if you go to security center, open it up, you should have there's somewhere in here your policy and compliance, but here it will also show up policy and compliance. Okay, so here you can go to security policy, you will see the same thing is going to show up in here. Okay, if you go to Azure sponsorship, and you can look at the effective policy that we have inside this particular subscription, whether they're enabled or disabled, whether they're for audits and all of that stuff. And let's get back one level one more time, and that's about it. So you can check for your regulatory compliance, coverage, and all of the good stuff that you have learned in this particular exercise. And here we go. Here we can assign the custom initiatives, and then again add the new policies, as many policies as you like for your environment. All right, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you're preparing for the exam, good luck. Enjoy learning, and use your policies for your best interest. Make your environment more secure. Thank you for watching.